Welcome back to part 2 of Exploring Your Human Design with Tanya Reyes. This was such an incredible podcast episode. We knew we had to split it up into 2 sections to make sure that you could fully enjoy every section of this incredible podcast. Come along and join us for the rest of the episode.
Hello and welcome to the Transformation Project, a podcast and community for women who are looking to transform into the best version of themselves no matter where they are at. A place where you can listen, learn, and laugh along with us as we dive deep into different topics to help you live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled life. Remember, we are all learning here together, and therefore the content and opinions of the hosts and our guests should not be taken as medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions.
Something else that I always think is very important for projectors to know is that you are a non-energy type in human design. You are here to show us how to work smarter and not harder, and to guide the people who have the physical energy, the generators of the world, to execute, to be efficient, to bring the vision to life. And projectors are really fantastic at doing that, at guiding the sacral energy. But energy management can be a challenge for projectors, just as it can be for manifestors. Firstly, because there is this ability to ride the waves of other people's energy. So often projectors, if we think about being on the floor of a restaurant, the projector is the one running laps around all of the generator beings. But when they get home, they're like, whoa, I feel like I just got hit by a truck, because they're running at like 10 times the speed of everybody. And part of that reason is because where we have undefined centers in our chart, where you see white shapes in your chart, and for projectors, they definitely have their sacral undefined and white in their chart. We are taking energy in through these centers and amplifying it. So projectors take in the sacral energy, that go, go, go work energy from the people around them, and feel it to the next degree. And so this can be both a gift, but also a potential spot to get stuck in your not self if it develops in this consistent expectation, or you're holding yourself to this certain standard of productivity and output all the time. So it's really important for projectors not to measure their productivity as physical output. In the ideal world where projectors are really supported, their output, like what they're putting out into the world, the things that feel like work for them, are about 30 to 40% of their day. And the rest of the time, they're doing things that feel really good for them, that feel easeful, that they're able to be restfully productive. And so when they're not recognized, when there isn't an active invitation, that's the time for the projector to sit back and chill on their throne and build themselves up, hone their gifts, become an expert in their chosen field, and wait essentially for the right people to see them, to get them, and to invite them in.
That really resonates.
Yeah. I was just thinking, because you can sometimes be very go, go, go. I wonder if you have a generator in your house that you're like feeding off of that energy from.
Yeah.
And then after you're like that, you find that you need some downtime.
Oh yeah. So even if we do stuff like in our business, we often will do big conferences or leadership events, or, you know, various things. And so when I'm there, I do feel like I'm put on this earth to serve, I guess, other people. Is kind of, so even if we're in those events, my energy is super high, and I feel like I have to show the leadership in that if my energy is high, people around me's energy will lift as well. However, when I get home, especially if we're doing that, if it's like 2 or 3 days, I literally have to tap out of the world completely for at least 2 days. Like tap out. And if we have something in business or in something else where we're really kind of driving for a particular goal or whatever, and it's like everybody's working together and there's a super high, like lifting, resonating that energy higher and higher. Once we hit that goal, it's like, got to tap out for a little bit and just like cocoon myself, I think, and then I can get back to it. So while you were saying that, obviously our listeners can't hear, but I was nodding, nodding away. And Jess will know, like when she sees me at those things, my mom, I always laugh because my mom-in-law, she classes herself as an introvert. And I'm like, I'm introverted too. And she's like, no, you're not. You're like out there and you're talking to people and I'm like, actually, I need a cocoon once I'm up. But a lot of people, this will be a surprise actually to a lot of people who know me personally hearing this, I think.
This is amazing as well, because profile is another really important part that we look to in someone's chart. And you're a 2-4 Yvette, and the 2 is the hermit, which is the part of you that needs to step away and cocoon yourself, exactly as you said. And no one call me for 2 days. I just need to reset and just be in my own energy. But the other side of your profile, the 4th line, is the networker, the natural connector, the relationship builder, the one that gets energy from engaging with people that are part of their community, and they're really meant to serve their immediate community. And for 4th lines, you're not here to serve everybody far and wide. It really is about your intimate connections and your immediate network.
How spot on is that? Oh my
Jess
goodness,
was
I hadn't even looked at your profile
so hard.
That's crazy.
And yeah, that resonates 100%.
Yeah.
That resonates.
And something else, just to kind of pull everything together for projectors, is we talked about the not self theme for generators and MGs, which is frustration, and their signature, what they're seeking, how they kind of assess whether they're in alignment, which is satisfaction. So for a projector, the not self is the bitterness, and the signature is success. So when a projector is in alignment, they feel successful from the inside out. It might not be, I've hit this, and this goal, but I am successful. I feel successful inside. And that is what a projector deserves in life. And they get there by following their strategy and authority. And if they are feeling like, I can't get any success, or I'm trying so hard and like nothing's happening, then sit back, reassess what are the avenues in life where you're giving and not getting anything in return, even if it is just that simple thank you, or I really saw what you did there. That was a great job. So yeah, and I always tell projectors, like, you are designed to be successful. You don't need to hustle and grind and push and force to get there. By honoring your true nature, it is inevitable that you will experience the success that you deserve.
I love that.
Love it.
I'm so glad we're not talking about muscles and bones today.
So much better. Do you know off the top of your head a famous-ish person that's a projector?
Let me think about it.
I'm sure we can Google it. I know I've seen a whole bunch for everybody.
There are many. John Legend is a projector.
Oh, okay.
And Ariana Grande, musicians are just coming to mind. Yeah. Who else are famous projectors? I'll have to circle back to that. I do have this library in my brain of celebrity references for each type.
Yeah, cool.
And so then we have like reflectors, right? And you said those are like the 1% that are reflectors. Yeah. So that's the fourth or fifth, I guess, group.
Yeah, so generators and manifesting generators are still both the generator type. And then we have projectors, and then we have manifestors, which we haven't talked about, and reflectors. So yeah, let's talk about reflectors next. So reflectors are the 1.5% of the population. So they are the rarest type in human design. And they really live by a different set of rules because they process and experience energy very differently than the other types. And a way that you can know if you're a reflector is if you look up your chart and all of the 9 energy centers are white, you're a reflector. So whereas any other type will have at least 2 centers colored in their chart, meaning this is their definition. This is consistent energy that they have access to. This is what they're here to use and be recognized for in this life. Reflectors don't have that. They're completely open energetically, and they are the only lunar beings, because definition in someone's chart is the sun's programming. So reflectors not having definition, they are the lunar beings, and their energy and aura is sampling and resistant and gentle, and they have an unimposing presence. They can really amplify and reflect or mirror other people's energy back to them. And because they have no defined centers, there's a big difference between the perspective of a reflector and everyone else's, because you can be as open-minded as you want to be, but if you have definition in your chart, it's going to color the way that you see the world and the way that you experience it. Whereas reflectors not having that, they are the ones who are said to be naturally attuned to judge whether the collective is doing well or not. And I think that this also applies to being able to pick up on when an individual is aligned or not. And for reflectors, a big part of not having any definition is that there's not a lot of consistency with who they are. They show up differently every single day. They feel so different depending on what transits are affecting them that day. And because they are lunar beings, their authority, their decision-making process is so different from all of the other types. Their process is all about waiting the 28-day lunar cycle before they make a decision. And that is very challenging in this fast-paced society that we live in.
Just
for me,
that.
finding and when I first found this out, I was like pissed when I first looked at my chart, because there is nothing solid that I was getting. Like everything was very vague and inconsistent. And whereas for anyone who has emotional or splenic or sacral authority, it's something kind of specific that you can anchor into and focus on. But reflectors, it's very open-ended. And so for me, at first, I was a little bit resistant, but over time, I just felt so liberated to realize I can take my time making decisions. What? Like, I don't need to respond right away. And reflecting on my life and all of the spontaneous decisions I made along the way, they rarely ended very well for me when I was just like flying by the seat of my pants. It doesn't mean that you can't still be spontaneous, because the reflector's signature is surprise and delight. They want to experience that feeling. But when it comes to the big life decisions or a big monetary investment in like booking a trip or something, those are the things that you want to wait on. And as a rule of thumb for reflectors who are new to this information and are feeling maybe a little triggered or not sure how to even implement this into their life, I always just say, if a decision can wait, let it. If it's something that actually I do need to get back to this person next week, get back to them next week. If there's something that you can take a couple of weeks to simmer on, take those couple of weeks. Maybe you don't get the full 28 days, and that's okay. But the moon is the reflector's ally and their timekeeper, and it will pull them in different directions at different times. And so those lunar transits really have the strongest influence on a reflector's chart. A beautiful thing about reflectors, though, is they really have the potential to be the brightest and most loving people on earth, and they really enliven and lift up the energy of other people, and they highlight and show others both their highest potential and shadow projections as well. They can really tell what's working, what's not, who's living authentically as themselves and who's not. And unfortunately, most reflectors are living life trying to be something that they're not, because they're operating as amplified versions of the world around them and haven't been understood or encouraged to embrace their differences, or are just completely unaware that so much that they take in through their open centers is not theirs. And something I always want to make sure I express to reflectors who are new to this work as well is how important environment is to them. And when it comes to decision making, if they don't have the luxury of waiting 28 days, assessing the environment connected with the decision. If you want to say yes to a job, but your interview was virtual, can I set up a coffee date in the office so I can just feel into the space and make sure that this environment feels healthy for me? Because that really is part of the reflector process, is being a barometer for the health of their environment. In return, though, their physical environment very much directly affects their health and well-being.
Very interesting. I feel like I don't read a lot about reflectors. I mean, I realize that's not me, so I'm not drawn to learning about them, but yeah, very interesting about the energy and yeah, just everything.
It does make me think that there would be a lot of people out there that, especially when we're talking about mental health and things like that, that I feel like if they're in the wrong space, somebody like that might not even realize that. And if they know that, they'd be able to make different decisions for themselves, as opposed to being placed in or unknowingly placing themselves in a situation that isn't healthy for them, through no fault of their own, and then blaming themselves for that, or, having to deal with anxiety every day, or, low mood or whatever, simply because they're in a place where they're not supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just to draw attention to, that's the number one thing to focus on. And like, if you feel misaligned or as a reflector and you don't know who you are, you're lost, or nothing's going your way, start there. What are the environments in my life that make me feel unwell? And that was so eye-opening for me to learn about as a reflector, and very healing, because as a child, I would get physically ill in certain classrooms, in certain countries. Like, there were times in my childhood where I presented physical symptoms of being unwell, and then I would remove myself from the environment, and all of a sudden I would be instantly fine. And what that's really telling me is that someone, or that space itself, there was something there that wasn't correct for me. And I am so grateful that I had a mother who really took my anxiety and sensitivity and my reflections about my environment and the people in it seriously. And she would give me the opportunity to change schools or classrooms or whatever if I was experiencing something like that. But I think I can imagine that for reflector parents, it can be really challenging to have a child that is maybe ill or anxious, and just you have no idea why, but it's nothing that you did. So this information is just so useful for parenting. And that's something that I actually spend a lot of my time doing, is family sessions and parent-child sessions, just inspired out of thinking about my young little reflector self and how much she would have benefited from her parents knowing this information.
Yeah, well, and that's probably one of the biggest things I took away from our call, because after we got off, I looked and both of my kids are manifesting generators, and Kinsley's not self theme is so obviously frustration. She can get frustrated so quickly, and then my not self theme is anger, and then I get angry, and then obviously makes the whole situation so lovely. But that's one of the biggest things I've taken away, that like, she's going to get frustrated very quickly. Me getting angry is going to make that worse. Whereas we'll get into manifestors, but the opposite to mine is peace. And I find when I can take a deep breath and get myself back into like a peaceful state, it changes hers so quickly. She's all of a sudden able to be like, we have this thing where we're like, don't say can't. Like, you just have to try. But if she tries once and she can't do it, it's like being thrown across the room. I can't, like, almost anger, but it's frustration. And it's really helped us as me at least as a parent, like just know where she's coming from and know that that's where she's going to go quickly, but I can pull her to a different side.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, this is a great segue into the manifester type. And so manifestors are 9-ish% of the population. So they are on the rarer side. And manifestors have this very big and magnetizing energy. And they are the ones who are here to provide that initiating spark for something and get the ball rolling for the rest of us. So each type is so important to the world, to our society. We all have a role to play. And for the rest of us to fulfill our purpose, we need the manifestors to fulfill their purpose and to be who they are. So I think about like the manifestors being the ones who they have the idea or they pick the location or whatever it is that gets the ball rolling. And then the generators come in with their sacral energy and start building and creating and bringing the vision to life. And then the projectors come in and they guide the process and they tell us how we can refine things. And then the reflectors are just in the center of it all, saying, great job, guys. Like you're doing really well or not. And so for the manifestors, being the ones who are here to have an impact, they're not here to ask for permission. They really are designed to act independently. And it's not that they can't work with other people, but for them, their decision-making process, what determines what they take action on or not, really needs to come from them first. And they need to make their decision internally of this is what I want to do based on honoring their authority. They need to communicate what that next step is going to be, because their impact can be so great that sometimes manifestors can have a bit of a steamrolling quality or just like bulldoze their way through any obstacles and not inform people. But when manifestors are able to communicate with the people that they work with their loved ones, and just let them know this is what I'm up to, it really softens the process for them. That's what minimizes the resistance for the manifestor and allows them to then execute on the thing that they want to do with ease. And so informing is their strategy. And that is so critical for them to be able to fulfill their purpose and to act on their urges. And that's what manifestors are really known for, is getting these urges, these magical moments of inspiration where they just feel like, I need to do this right now, or I have this idea, I need to make this happen. And nobody interrupt me until I'm done. I'm locked in this urge and no one mess with my flow. And for manifestors to be able to honor those urges, to be in that flow uninterrupted, informing is so important. Like, hey, mommy's just going to be in here. You go do your thing over there. And that, rather than just shutting your kids out or whatever, or shutting your husband out, just having that, it's kind of like a courtesy to the other types for a manifestor to just let them know, this is what I'm up to. I'm doing it anyways, but I just want you to know that this is what I'm doing. And as you were mentioning about the anger and peace, that's exactly the not self theme and the signature. So when a manifestor is caught up doing things for other people, or they're not able to honor the urges to do the things that they want to do, they feel angry. And it doesn't have to be equivalent to this outward rage, but it's like this bubbling beneath the skin type of quality. Like, this person is asking me to run this errand for them, but I'm en route to brunch. Like, I don't want to stop and do this thing right now. And it can be as small as that. And what the manifestor is seeking is peace, this feeling of, I can just do this thing that I want to do and no one's going to bother me. That is just the best feeling in the world. And does that ring true for you in the way that you experience the peace and anger, or can you speak to the anger a little bit more?
Exactly what you said, because I'm definitely not, I don't think people close to me would think I'm an angry person at all. Like, I don't I don't really yell but I do get that bubbling. And so, for example, a mom of 2 young children, I don't get a lot of me time. And I before we had our call, whatever it was, a year ago, I wasn't informing anybody of anything. And I was just going and doing things and being like, why aren't people happy? I'm just doing all this stuff for them. But as soon as I've stopped now and informed, like just as simple, like, I'm going to go and change the laundry now, just announcing to the room, I'm going to go change the laundry. And then and that way I don't have like Kinsley asking me to do something and Ben being like, where are you going? And Asher crying because I've left the room. I've informed people, and because otherwise it would have just led to anger. It would have to that bubbling feeling like, oh my God, guys, I'm just trying to get your stupid laundry done. Like, could you just give me 30 seconds? Like, because I felt like that a lot. And I felt like that a lot at work. I would take on all these things. And I guess because I did kind of think I was meant to be a generator, I was like, I have to go, go, go. I would push through any feelings that like I needed to rest. And then I would get angry and resentful at people because I'm doing all these things. No one's asked me to do all these things for work, but I've done them because I felt like I had to like go, go, go. And then I've been angry that I've had to do them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that example about the laundry, because it really is just something so simple and small that if you experiment with it and implement it into your life, the strategy of informing, you can immediately notice like, oh, that interaction went a lot better than it usually does. Or, wow, I got that done with a lot more ease than I usually do. And that starts to build your trust muscle of, okay, maybe there's something to this. And I want to make sure to touch on the energy piece, as though, even though you have already, Jess, about the ebbs and flows, but the manifester really does operate like a sparkler. Like when there's that urge, you just light up and you can really focus on this thing for 12 hours straight or whatever until it's done and you've brought it to life. Like manifestors can create something out of nothing. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, sparklers can't stay sparkling all the time. They need to die down. And that's how the manifestor prepares for the next urge, is by enjoying those ebbs and resting and downtime. And okay, nothing's coming through right now. Maybe I don't feel inspired in this moment. Great, I'm going to catch up on some reading or rest or laundry or whatever it is, and really prioritizing those downtimes when there's nothing that's activating you from the inside out. That is the urge. And if manifestors aren't experiencing urges, then I would ask them to take inventory on the things that are kind of clogging up their life, or are they just working themselves to the bone and there's no room to rest because an unrested manifestor has no space to receive. And so resting, super important for manifestors, and not something that comes easily or naturally sometimes, because when a manifestor is in that urge, it's magical. You probably have more energy than anyone, but it doesn't last forever. And that's really something that's important for a manifestor to know about themselves. And I also wanted to speak to the manifestor aura, because it is more closed off than the other types. And that is designed to protect the manifestor, because they're not here to be super approachable and have all these people asking all of these things of them, because they're not designed to respond. They are here to do what they want to do. And often I get manifestors coming to me who say that people don't know if they like them, or like maybe they rob people the wrong way, or people just can't get a read on them. And to them, they're like, I really like you. I thought we had a great relationship. Like, what do you mean? But it's just because their aura is just a little bit more closed off. It doesn't mean that they're rude or mean or anything like that. It's just how it feels to be in the presence of a manifestor. Does that ring true for your experience at all?
I've been told a few times by like people who are friends, you're like, oh, I thought you were quite a bitch when we first met. It's like, okay,
my
sorry.
friends told me that exact thing. Girls, we call my little friendship group's called the Chappa Chaps Club. if you girls are listening, they did. When we've all got together, they were like, we thought you were a bit of a bitch with me first. But I think that's just because, in my own mind, doing my own thing. We all have that quality.
Yeah, and manifestors aren't meant to be liked by everyone. It is really part of the manifestor journey to find who their people are, and the right people will gravitate to them and the wrong people will want nothing to do with them and they'll just get out of the way. But for the other types, when you find your manifestor, the one that you really click with, it's the best. Like my manifestor friend, one of my best friends, I just love being in conversation with her and in her presence. And she's such a catalyst for me. And that really is the potential of the manifestor. But she's not for everyone. You're not for everyone. And sometimes it's kind of a painful journey for the manifestor, maybe as kids, like not being liked by everyone or having a specific experience that stands out where someone didn't like you for no reason and you didn't know why, and it was just because maybe they couldn't get a read on you, or they felt like your aura was closed and they wanted to reject you before you rejected them, or whatever it may be. But it is such an important part of the manifestor process to really find who their people are. And so I always like to tell manifestors that piece about how their experience may have really impacted who they have become, and to not try and be liked by everybody, because that's not what you're here to do. You're here to stand out to the right people.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I need
stands out to me. We love you.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, that's definitely something I've struggled with, that like, I don't know if you'd call it a fear of rejection, but yeah, just I guess people pleasing, wanting to make sure everyone was happy and everyone liked me. And yeah, but it's definitely been, and that almost makes me angry. I don't know, like what we talked about with the anger bubbling up inside. Like I go and try and make everyone happy, and then I'm almost like angry with myself, being like, why did I waste that energy? Like, I don't actually even care really much about those people. I'm never going to speak to them again.
Yeah, and that's because doing what you want is what brings you peace, and conforming to what other people want or what is expected just probably makes you cringe inside. Like you can maybe do it, but it just doesn't feel right. And that, I think, really brings us back to the purpose of human design. Is it helps us understand what is right for us, what it feels like when we're with the right people and in the right situations versus not. And as a reflector, it's such a process, but I know when I'm with the right people. I can tell when an environment is not correct for me, and I'm willing to take action on removing myself from that environment. And that comes with greater awareness of who we are as individuals. And that's human design in a nutshell.
I think that's so interesting, because especially now, I think there's so many, as I was saying, like it just brings me back to this sort of massive mental health issue that we have right now. And I feel like there's so many people who are in the wrong spaces, in the wrong environment, trying to do things that are not aligned with themselves, and simply giving themselves the permission to set those boundaries where they need to set them, that they feel like they can't right now, to be in alignment would just make such a massive difference. If they were like, this is what feels right for me, and that's okay and perfectly permissible for who I am, and I don't have to be like that person that I'm trying to compare myself to. I'm trying to whatever. I get to be exactly who I am, and I can set those boundaries and feel comfortable in doing that. I think would make such a difference for so many people, and for kids. Like I think it's so amazing that there's parents doing that with their children, because as I said in the beginning, I think we have so many children having expectations put on them by their parents, or feeling like they're expected to do certain things because their sister did, or their brother did, or their whatever, where their parents just don't understand that that's just not the child's makeup. Because all of us want to do the best for our kids. And so to have a better understanding of how our kids are behaving, or how to make them be the most successful, happiest version of themselves, and how to help them as little people create that environment and set those boundaries and whatever, to put themselves in that position where they can succeed in their life, is so important.
You'll have to figure out what your whole family is about.
I'm intrigued. I'm like, so actually that takes us to the next part so Tanya, if people want to find out more about human design or connect with you, where's the best place that they can do that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at tanyareyes.hd, and my website is tanyareyeshumandesign.com. And I'm definitely very passionate about doing child's chart readings. So I'm very glad you brought that up, and family sessions. And I also have a mentorship program where I teach people how to read human design charts. And I've had a few teachers go through that program, which brings me so much joy that people in these spheres of influence and in this work of teaching and guiding young children are implementing this modality into the way that they operate their classroom. And they can't all ask the parents of the kids in the classroom for their time of birth, but based on the date of birth, they can kind of get a gauge of, okay, these are my generators, these are my projectors, these MGs, they may not be able to sit still and focus, so I'm going to give them things to fidget with while I'm teaching this topic or whatever. And so that's what brings me so much joy, is to see coaches and teachers and guides and leaders or physical therapists or anyone who works with people to just have this added layer of understanding of the inner framework of someone's energy.
I love it. I didn't realize you had that and teachers were going through it. I think that's so important as well. I can only speak to obviously my experience, but it's helped me as a parent dealing with my child, but even how I interact with Ben or other people. It almost gave me a better understanding of like, yes, people aren't all going to be like me. They're not going to do things the way I want them to. And it's not because they're mean or they're stubborn or they're closed-minded or any of these things. It's our human design. It's actually like meant to be this way. I feel like it's been very calming for me to deal with more people the last couple years, knowing that everyone's meant to be different and it's perfect. And I loved what you said earlier, just about how everything works and how everyone fits together and how we're all so important. I love it all. So thank you so much for doing this. I've taken so much away. I'm so happy we got to do this again. I feel like you've refreshed everything in my mind too, from what we talked about before. And I'm very excited to hear what Yvette's whole family is.
Yeah, me too. You'll have to let me know.
Yeah. And for all of you who are out there who are listening, feel free to comment on whatever platform that you're listening to us on, or on our website or in our Facebook page. Like, feel free to comment on what your family is or on what you are. And if that resonates with you, like, that will be really exciting to see kind of how that sits with everybody.
It would be very interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna go around starting asking people, "What's your date of birth? What's your?"
They're gonna be like,
"Welcome to my life." Yeah,
weird.
Yeah, you're a weirdo, but that's okay. Anyway, well, thank you so much for being with us, Tanya, and everybody listening. We'll pop everything in the show notes, so like where they can find you, where they can do their human design, if they want to contact you with questions or anything like that. But I just wanted to say a huge thank you for taking your time. You're in Canada right now, so I know it's getting a bit late. So thank you so much for taking your time to do this.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. And wherever you are in the world, we hope you're having an absolutely spectacular day. We can't wait to be with you again on the next episode of the Transformation Project.
Thank you for listening in to this episode of the Transformation Project. The Transformation Project is not just a podcast, we're also a community. We're a collective of like-minded people all around the world seeking to live their best life and raise each other up. We're looking to support you, set goals, get healthier, connect with yourself and others at a deeper level, and better understand yourself and the world around you. We're always looking to link arms with like-minded people wanting to create more out of life. You can connect with us via our website, which is www.thetransformationproject.net.au. Email us at support@thetransformationproject.net.au, or simply listen in to one of our podcast episodes, which can be found on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can even watch some of our episodes on our YouTube channel, simply called The Transformation Project. Please like and subscribe to make sure you hear all the incredible shows and guests we have lined up. If you have any feedback or any comment, we would love to hear those, as well as any ideas or guests that you think we should be interviewing in future. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Transformation Project.